You sit in a dimly lit room, surrounded by stacks of books and papers, consumed by a single thought: how can you break free from the constraints of selfishness and truly make a difference in the world? As you delve into the world of unselfish thinking, you realize that the path to true fulfillment is not as straightforward as you thought, and you quickly get embroiled in a dangerous game of power and manipulation. You soon discover that those closest to you are not who they seem. Will you be able to navigate the treacherous waters of unselfish thinking and come out victorious, or will you be consumed by the darkness that threatens to engulf you? You decide to put the needs of others before your own and embark on a journey to discover the true meaning of unselfish thinking. Can you withstand the challenges and sacrifices that come with this new way of thinking, or will you be consumed by the egocentric society around you? So grab your imagination. In this video, Practice Unselfish Thinking from How Successful People Think book by the great author, speaker, and pastor John C. Maxwell. I promise you great pleasure, knowledge, and benefit. Welcome to Readbook Channel, a channel that will help you learn skills from authors and speakers, international personalities, to step towards success and wealth in your life. If you are interested, honor me by subscribing. Let's get started. Practice unselfish thinking. We cannot hold a torch to light another's path without brightening our own. Ben Sweetland. This quote suggests that when we help others, we also benefit in some way. It implies that by assisting others, we gain knowledge, experience, or personal growth, and that the act of helping others is not a one-way street but rather a mutually beneficial process. One historical business story that illustrates the idea that when we help others, we also benefit is the story of the R.R. Donnelley Company, a printing and publishing company that was founded in 1864. In the early 1900 seconds, the company was struggling financially and was on the brink of bankruptcy. However, the company's president, Richard Robert Donnelley, made the decision to invest in new technology and equipment despite the financial risks. Donnelley understood that by investing in new technology, he could help his employees by giving them better tools to do their jobs and also improve the efficiency of the company. He also began to provide his employees with a range of benefits, such as health insurance and retirement plans, which were unusual for the time. These actions not only helped to improve the lives of the company's employees, but they also had a positive impact on the company's financial success. The investment in new technology allowed the company to increase its productivity and efficiency, which in turn led to increased profits. As a result, the company was able to pull out of its financial difficulties and become one of the most successful printing and publishing companies in the United States. This example demonstrates that when a company helps its employees and invests in them, it can also benefit the company by improving its efficiency and profitability. Unselfish thinking can often deliver a return greater than any other kind of thinking. Take a look at some of its benefits. 1. Unselfish thinking brings personal fulfillment. Assisting others can bring a great sense of fulfillment and personal reward. As Charles H. Burr stated, getters generally don't get happiness, givers get it. Giving of yourself to help others can bring a great sense of satisfaction and inner peace. When you spend your time and energy to help others, you can rest easy at night with no regrets. As Alan Loy McGinney stated in his book Bringing Out the Best in People, there is no more noble occupation in the world than to assist another human being, to help someone succeed. Even if you have previously lived a self-centered life, it is never too late to make a change and start helping others. Like the fictional character Ebenezer Scrooge from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, even the most unhappy person can make a positive impact on the lives of those around them. This is evident in the story of Alfred Nobel, who, upon reading his own obituary that had been mistakenly published, dedicated himself to promoting peace and recognizing contributions to humanity through the establishment of the Nobel Prizes. One financial story that illustrates the idea is the story of the Grameen Bank. The Grameen Bank, founded in Bangladesh by Muhammad Yunus, pioneered the concept of microfinance, which provides small loans to poor entrepreneurs who lack access to traditional banking services. Yunus realized that many poor people in Bangladesh were trapped in a cycle of poverty, not because they were lazy or lacked ambition, but because they lacked access to credit. He believed that by providing small loans to these individuals, they could start their own businesses and improve their lives. Despite the high risk risk and low returns associated with microfinance, Yunus pursued this unselfish mission, and in doing so, he helped lift millions of people out of poverty. Grameen Bank's success has been recognized globally and has been replicated in many other countries. Yunus' unselfish thinking of helping the poor brought him personal fulfillment, as well as changing the lives of many people, and it also showed the world that microfinance can be a powerful tool for poverty reduction. 2. Unselfish thinking adds value to others. In 1904, Bessie Anderson Stanley wrote the following definition of success in Brown Book magazine. He has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has enjoyed the trust of pure women, the respect of intelligent men, and the love of little children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who has left the world better than he found it, whether by an improved copy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who has never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty or failed to express it, who has always looked for the best in others and given them the best he had, whose life was an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. When you get outside of yourself and make a contribution to others, you really begin to live. The Pay It Forward movement. The Pay It Forward movement is based on the idea that small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect and make a big difference in the world. The movement began with a simple concept. When someone does something nice for you, instead of paying them back, you pay it forward by doing something nice for someone else. The idea is that by paying it forward, you create a chain reaction of kindness and generosity that can have a positive impact on many people. The Pay It Forward movement has been embraced by people around the world and has been used to raise money for charities, support local communities, and create a more positive and supportive environment for everyone. It has been implemented in schools, workplaces, and communities, and it has shown how small acts of kindness can bring a sense of fulfillment and change people's lives. It is an example of how unselfish thinking can bring value to others and make a difference in the world. 3. Unselfish thinking encourages other virtues. Selfishness is something you expect to see in a 4-year-old. However, it isn't that attractive when you see it in a 40-year-old, is it? Unselfish thinking appears to have the most impact on developing other virtues of all the traits one might strive for. That's why, in my opinion, it's so challenging to be selfless. It goes against what people generally want to do. However, it becomes simpler to cultivate many other qualities, such as gratitude, love, respect, patience, discipline, etc. if you can learn to think benevolently and become a giver. The Robin Hood Foundation. The Robin Hood Foundation is a non-profit organization that fights poverty in New York City. The organization was founded in 1988 by a group of Wall Street traders who recognized that there was a significant gap between the wealth of the financial industry and the needs of the poor in their own community. The Robin Hood Foundation's mission is to alleviate poverty by providing funding and support to organizations that serve the poor. The organization's unselfish thinking, putting the needs of others first, encourages other virtues such as generosity, compassion, and empathy among its donors. The Robin Hood Foundation has raised over $2 billion since its inception and has supported over 600 organizations in the fight against poverty. The organization's success has inspired other philanthropic efforts in the financial industry and has demonstrated how unselfish thinking can encourage other virtues, such as generosity, compassion, and empathy among its donors. 4. Unselfish thinking increases quality of life. Andrew Carnegie, a wealthy industrialist and philanthropist in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Carnegie believed in the principle of giving while living and used the majority of his fortune to establish various institutions and foundations that promoted education, research, and the arts. His philanthropy helped to establish thousands of libraries, as well as institutions such as Carnegie Mellon University and the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Carnegie's unselfish actions and dedication to improving the lives of others through his wealth had a significant impact on society. Unselfish thinking fosters a sense of generosity that helps people appreciate life and comprehend its higher ideals. A lot of things are put into perspective when we help others who are in need. It improves both the giver's and the recipient's quality of life. That's why I believe that there is no life as empty as the self-centered life. There is no life as centered as the self-empty life. Put your attention on helping others if you want to change the world. 5. Unselfish thinking makes you part of something greater than yourself. Merck's decision to give away the drug for river blindness, also known as Unselfish, was a significant example of unselfish thinking in the pharmaceutical industry. The company recognized that the potential market for the drug was primarily in developing countries where the population could not afford to pay for it. Instead of abandoning the project or pricing it at a level that would only benefit a small number of people, Merck made the decision to give the drug away for free. This decision not only saved the sight of millions of people, but also helped to eliminate river blindness as a public health problem in several countries. This action was widely recognized, and Merck was awarded the Presidential Award for Private Sector Initiatives by President Ronald Reagan in 1987. It also attracted the attention of other pharmaceutical companies and spurred them to also consider ways to make their products more accessible to people in need. This act of Merck also helped to establish a new standard of corporate responsibility in the pharmaceutical industry, known as philanthropic capitalism, where companies focus on both their bottom line and social impact. George W. Merck says, "We try never to forget that medicine is for the people. It is not for the profits. The profits follow, and if we have remembered that, they have never failed to appear." The lesson to be learned: simple. Instead of trying to be great, be part of something greater than yourself. 6. Unselfish thinking creates a legacy. Jack Balosek, President and Chief Operating Officer of True North Communications, says, "Learn, earn, return. These are the three phases of life. The first third should be devoted to education, the second third to building a career and making a living, and the last third to giving back to others, returning something in gratitude. Each state seems to be a preparation for the next one. It becomes possible for you to leave an inheritance for others if you are successful. But if you want to accomplish more and leave a lasting impression, you must inspire others to do the same. You have the chance to leave a lasting legacy when you think about others before yourself and invest in them." George Soros. George Soros is a billionaire investor and philanthropist who has used his wealth to promote democracy and human rights around the world. Soros was born in Hungary in 1930 and survived the Nazi occupation during World War II. After the war, he moved to London, where he studied economics and finance. In 1956, he emigrated to the United States, where he began his career as a hedge fund manager. He became one of the most successful investors in the world, and by the early 1990s, he had amassed a fortune of several billion dollars. However, Soros did not simply hoard his wealth for himself. Instead, he decided to use his fortune to promote democracy and human rights around the world. He established the Open Society Foundations, which support civil society groups in more than 100 countries. The foundations work to promote democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, as well as to address social ills such as poverty, discrimination, and corruption. Soros has invested billions of dollars in these efforts and has helped to create a legacy of promoting democracy, human rights, and an open society. His unselfish thinking and investment in others has had a lasting impact on many countries and communities around the world, and his legacy will continue to inspire future generations to work for a more just and equitable society. How to experience the satisfaction of unselfish thinking. I think most people recognize the value of unselfish thinking, and most would even agree that it's an ability they would like to develop. Many people, however, are at a loss concerning how to change their thinking. To begin cultivating the ability to think unselfishly, I recommend that you do the following. 1. Put others first. Mahatma Gandhi. Throughout his life, Gandhi advocated for non-violent civil disobedience as a means for social and political change. He led peaceful protests and boycotts against British rule in India and ultimately helped lead India to independence. Gandhi's actions were motivated not by personal ambition, but by a desire to improve the lives of others and bring about justice and equality. He famously said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." Through his humility and focus on the needs of others, Gandhi became one of the most influential leaders in history. The process begins with realizing that everything is not about you. That requires humility and a shift in focus. In The Power of Ethical Management, Ken Blanchard and Norman Vincent Peale wrote, "People with humility don't think less of themselves themselves, they just think of themselves less. If you want to become less selfish in your thinking, then you need to stop thinking about your wants and begin focusing on others' needs. Paul the Apostle exhorted, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves." Each of you should look not only to your own interest, but also to the interests of others. Make a mental and emotional commitment to look out for the interests of others. 2. Expose yourself to situations where people have needs. It's important to note that becoming less selfish and more focused on the needs of others is a process that takes time and effort. It's not something that will happen overnight. It requires a shift in mindset, and that shift requires consistent effort and practice. One way to start this process is by actively seeking out opportunities to give and serve. This can be done in various ways, such as volunteering at a local soup kitchen, visiting a retirement home, or mentoring a child. By actively putting yourself in situations where you can see the needs of others, you will be more likely to develop the habit of thinking like a giver. It's also important to remember that the kind of giving you do at first doesn't have to be grand or elaborate. It can be as simple as buying a meal for a homeless person or offering to help a neighbor with their groceries. The point is to start small and gradually increase the scope of your giving. As you begin to give more, it's important to reflect on the impact of your actions. Take note of how your giving makes you feel and how it impacts the person or community you are serving. Reflecting on your actions can help you to develop a deeper understanding of the needs of others, and it can also help to reinforce the positive feelings that come from giving. 3. Give quietly or anonymously. The next step is to learn to give when you are unable to obtain anything in return. Once you have mastered giving of yourself, giving is almost always simpler when you are rewarded for it than when there is a good chance that no one will know about it. However, those that donate with the intention of receiving a lot of attention have already received any rewards they will receive. Only those who donate anonymously receive certain benefits on a spiritual, mental, and emotional level. Try it if you've never done it before. 4. Invest in people intentionally. The ultimate form of selflessness is when an individual chooses to invest in the personal growth and well-being of another person. This can be seen in the relationships of marriage and parenting, where the emotional and personal needs are prioritized over material possessions. For example, a spouse would value quality time and attention over financial wealth, and children would prefer the presence and involvement of their parent over material gifts. It's important to remember that those who love us would rather have us than what we can give them. Giving of oneself in this way, through time, attention, and emotional investment, can bring deeper connections and fulfillment in personal relationships. You should take into account others' journeys in order to work with them if you want to develop into the kind of person that invests in others. Every interaction is similar to a partnership established for both parties' gain. Consider how you may invest in the other person as you enter any relationship to make it a win-win scenario. Here is how relationships most often play out. I win, you lose, I win only once. You win, I lose, you win only once. We both win, we win many times. We both lose, goodbye, partnership. The best relationships are win-win. Why don't more people go into relationships with that attitude? I'll tell you why. Most people want to make sure that they win first. Unselfish thinkers, on the other hand, go into a relationship and make sure that the other person wins first. And that makes all the difference. 5. Continually check your motives. François de la Rochefoucauld once said, "What seems to be generosity is often no more than disguised ambition, which overlooks a small interest in order to secure a great one." It can be challenging for individuals to overcome their innate tendency to prioritize their own needs and wants. It's crucial to consistently evaluate one's motives to ensure that they don't slip back into selfishness. One way to examine one's motives is to emulate the example set by Benjamin Franklin. He would ask himself 2 questions every day, one in the morning and one at night. In the morning, he would ask himself, "What good am I going to do today?" And before going to bed, he would ask, "What good have I done today?" Answering these questions with integrity and selflessness can help to keep oneself on track and ensure that one's actions align with one's values. give while you live. We all saw a display of altruism in the fall of 2001 that was unlike anything we had seen in the United States in a very long time. The events of September 11, 2001 are indelible. My assistant, Linda Eggers, entered the studio to deliver the awful news as I was finishing up a leadership lesson. I watched television all day, as did the majority of Americans, and heard the accounts of the firefighters and police officers who rushed into the World Trade Center towers to aid others while putting no thought into their own safety. In the days following the tragedy, millions of Americans expressed a great desire to do something that would help the situation. I had the same desire. My company was scheduled to do a training via simulcast on September 15th, the Saturday following the tragedy. Our leadership team decided to add a 1.5-hour program titled America Prays to the end of the simulcast. In it, my friend Max Lucado wrote and read a prayer expressing the heart's cry of millions. Franklin Graham prayed for our national leaders. Jim and Shirley Dobson gave advice to parents on how to help their children deal with the event. And Bruce Wilkinson and I asked the simulcast viewers to give financially to the people injured on September 11. Amazingly, they gave $5.9 million, which World Vision graciously agreed to distribute to those in need. Unselfish thinking and giving turned a very dark hour into one of light and hope. Less than 2 weeks after the tragedy, I was able to travel to Ground Zero in New York City. I went to view the site of the destruction, to thank the men and women clearing away the wreckage, and to pray for them. I can't really do justice to what I saw. I've traveled to New York dozens of times. It's one of my favorite places in the world. My wife and I had been up in the towers with our children many times before and have wonderful memories of that area. To look at the place where the buildings had once stood and to see nothing but rubble, dust, and twisted metal, it's simply indescribable. What many Americans didn't realize is that for many months people worked diligently to clean up the site. Many were New York City firefighters and other city workers. Others were volunteers. They worked around the clock, 7 days a week. And when they came across the remains of someone in the rubble, they called for silence and reverently carried them out. Since I am a clergyman, I was asked to wear a clerical collar upon entering the area. As I walked around, many workers saw the collar and asked me to pray for them. It was a humbling privilege. American educator Horace Mann said, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." According to this standard, New York City's firefighters are certainly prepared for death. The service they perform is often truly heroic. You and I may never be required to lay down our lives for others as they did, but we can give to others in different ways. We can be unselfish thinkers who put others first and add value to their lives. We can work with them so that they go farther than they thought possible. Thank you for watching, and I hope you will become rich one day. And I promise to help you and give you everything you need to be able to walk the path of wealth. But be ready.